gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for July 18th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, I didn't put a new thing here, so I'm just going to say I love you all very much. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Barrett Courtney from Kinda Funny, everybody. Barrett, how are you doing?
Jeff Grubb, I'm doing great today. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been actively listening to all the new iteration of Giant Bomb. So messy mornings I've been trying to keep up to date with. Listening to the getting messy every morning. Listen to the Giant Bomb cast with you on it. It's been a cool iteration of Giant Bomb in 2022. I'm very excited to kind of hang out for a little bit and get my hands into the messy morning today, Jeff.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been going well. We're just kind of doing our best, trying to put out a lot of stuff, and it's been the response has been great. It's been really fun though. I'm glad you've been listening. It's weird. Like, hey, we're gonna put together some shows and try to figure some stuff out. And we're gonna have this morning show to anchor stuff. And I'm like, when I was doing, I'm like, I'm just gonna do what Kinda Funny's doing. I'm just gonna do Kinda Funny Games Daily. Let's just do that, and that seemed to work out pretty well.
Exactly. So, it's a good basis for a show. You know.
When we were like talking about like, hey, we'd like to have something like as a daily anchor. It's like it was kind of hard to think of anything else that would just work. It's like, hey, we talk about games every day. That makes sense, right? So. Let's do it. But yeah, I don't know. We were coming into a Monday. It's like, I never know like that transition, like, okay, what do we talk about? Because there's like usually not a lot of news happening on the weekend. There's enough today, but did you do anything fun on the weekend?
Well, here's the thing, Jeff Grubb. I had a pretty nice weekend, hung out with my dog a lot. That's why, the weekends are spent taking her on outings and things of that nature. Played a lot with my Steam Deck this weekend. First, I got it last week, but I got it in the middle of like a really busy work week, so I didn't really like get a lot of like actual like just like sit down time with it for like a long extended period of time. So I got to play around with that, doing some cybercrime on the Steam Deck, which is great. But here's the thing, Jeff Grubb. For those who don't know me, I'm Barrett Courtney from Kinda Funny. I'm a technical director at Kinda Funny. So that means I'm the guy usually on the other side of the podcast, making sure everybody looks great, sounds great, making sure the podcast is recording, all that stuff. All the things that Jeff Grubb
batteries are charged and everything.
Exactly. Everything Jeff Grubb is doing while hosting at the same time, which is exactly. And so you might be wondering, do you have insider knowledge, Barrett? Like, do you have tenured history in journalism in this industry? The answer is no. I'm pretty much like a professional peanut gallery on the Kinda Funny Xcast, Gamescast, PS I Love You XOXO, where you can kind of hear me like butt into conversations and give my 2 cents. And so you might be wondering, well, Barrett, then why are you on this news show about video games? And that's because of one thing and one thing only. I want to call out Jeff Grubb for something.
Oh, no.
I started this game.
I saw you playing this. All right, go ahead.
I played a little game on the Switch at first called Neon White.
Sure.
Possibly Indie Game of the Year. And
easily,
and so I played it there, didn't skip any of the story like you heathens, like you and Andy Cortez, to skip it, press an F to skip in through the cutscenes and stuff like that. But here's the thing, no one else is playing on the Nintendo Switch, so the only leaderboard that I have to go up against on the Switch is the worldwide leaderboards, where I did have like some of the number ones for some of the levels and stuff like that. Okay. And I kept hearing big game about Andy, Your Times, Dan Reichert's, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to get the game on Steam. I'm gonna get used to mouse and keyboard for the first time since Portal 2 came out. That's how dedicated I was to this. Yeah, I'm not a mouse and keyboard person, but I was going to be for this game. And so, playing through the first few missions, getting through all these times, seeing like some of your scores, feeling good about like probably beating some of your scores. Definitely beat 2 of your scores last night.
Okay.
But then, I'm excited to see the latter half of the game where I'm like, ooh, I wonder what Jeff's time is going to be on like the final boss. You haven't beat Neon White yet? You're only halfway through the game, Jeff. Come on, man.
This is my sickness, is that like I get so I've got red developer times in almost every level I've played. If I don't, it's like 1 or 2 levels that I don't, and it's just because like something happened where like I accidentally like went forward in the story. But I play until I get the dev time, and then I start playing until I beat everyone else on my leaderboard. And so then I got distracted. And no, I still I played 80 hours or so of like Astro's Playroom because of the speedrunning stuff in there. I never beat Astro's Playroom. That's like a 3-hour game. It's like there's no excuse for that.
Because here's my thing. It's only because the speedrunning stuff gets so much more fun the further you get in. So that's really just what I want for you. I want you to live your best life, being able to like get into some of those really fun levels in the latter half of the game. I was
watching Mike stream it last night, and he said he beat it last night, and sure is good. And some of those later things, I'm like, wow, this is so different than all the things I've been doing. So. Yeah, and then Dan Ricker called me a weirdo in chat. That is offensive coming from him.
I mean, yeah.
I will get to I plan to play some today. Mondays, I usually have a little bit of time in the afternoon. I'm going to play a little bit and then get back to work and all that stuff. But I'll make I promise to make advancements toward the end at least. So who knows whenever I'll beat it. We'll see. All right. Before we get into the mess, let's explain ourselves. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up, where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even bring some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input from a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game S Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. If you are watching on there, please be sure to hit that like button. It helps people find the show. Okay, we have a lot of getting into, so let's start the morning mess with Skate 4 data mining reveals that the game might actually have loot boxes after all. So there is a couple of here, and I'll bring it up here. Let's go ahead and transition to this back end. And I don't know if this is a back end slideshow or whatever, but you could see the words unlockables and product boxes. And the Skate dev team has previously said that they are going free to play, but they will not have things like loot boxes. Now, that gets into how do we define loot boxes and all that, and then it gets into will this actually be in the shipping product, or is this just something they were testing? But we'll talk about all that. The data mining shows that the game at one point had unlockables and product boxes, and here's what the slideshow says: you can earn taps by exploring Fun City and completing FCCC challenges. Exchange taps for product boxes in the main menu by going to the store. Each product box you open will have a random unlockable item inside. Check out the new stuff you unlocked in the build kit and customization screens. So, like, this sounds like loot boxes, but what do you think is happening here, Barrett?
I could see it a couple of different ways, right? Is that either this was an early idea that they were getting into, and then probably had like a lot of just seeing it of like the devs not wanting it, and having the constant back and forth between higher ups. So if they want it because it's EA.
Well, you have to at least test it, right? The higher ups say, you have to at least test this. And if you have a better way of doing it, prove it. But we need to see the side-by-side comparison, right? That's possible?
Exactly. And so I imagine there's something going on with like maybe them looking into not a season pass, because I don't know if that would make exact sense for Skate, but I imagine there's a different system that's not like very loot boxy that they're trying to still figure out, because it is free to play. They have to, you know, be able to justify to the higher ups that like, hey, this is worth making, and this is like the money that's gonna, you know, this is the money that it's gonna make over years and years and years because of the system that we have set up here. So that's what I feel like is most likely going on here, especially if they did say it would not have loot boxes. I feel like if that line had come from a higher up, I would have been like, we'll see. But the fact that like the dev team themselves are like, hey, like we're not doing loot boxes, even though it's going free to play, even though EA is very known for having loot boxes. That's the vibe I get here. I really want to know what FCCC stands for.
Yeah, we got chat trying to figure it out too. What do you think?
Because it's like a Federal Communications Commission city is what I think.
Fun City is the name of like the overall area you're going to be in the game. So Fun City something, and obviously community college pops to mind immediately, but it's Fun City community challenges. That was a pretty good guess in chat. So I don't know. Yeah, I want to know as well. I'll say that like I feel like, you know, we could really give the benefit of the doubt here, but have they earned that? No. So I don't blame anybody for being like, okay, EA has already found a way to goof this up and be like, oh, there's like, you can't buy product boxes, but you can buy taps, and then you can use taps to buy product boxes. If that's what they're doing here, they are off to they're getting off to a bad start. That is stepping out with the wrong foot. This is a bad look immediately, because when you say no loot boxes, that there's a certain implication there that we expect there to be sort of no real way to get into the loop of spending money to earn loot boxes in whatever way that actually works. I think that the likely thing here is that this stuff probably all is on the free side of things, and this is or it's not going to be in the final shipping product at all, like you were saying. But if it is, it's like maybe taps will just always be the free currency, and then the real money you spend on will just be like, there will be a store where you could buy stuff directly, and you'll buy the thing you want, and then there's going to be a battle pass. That is my expectation based on like Apex Legends. Now, I'm not like super familiar with Apex Legends these days, but I don't think Apex Legends has loot boxes, right? I don't.
That would be a question for Blessing at AOE Junior. Apex is one where I've dipped my toe into a couple of times, and never enough to like actually dig into like what their kind of like storefront or whatever it is.
Tokimiki in chat says, why aren't they called skate crates? Which, yeah, of course. There you go. Scrates. Get yourself a scrate.
I like that.
Yeah, that's got a good mouth feel.
No, that just the word "scrate" reminds me. What's the word when you you kind of like leave a little stain in your underwear? What's that called?
Yes, God, a streak mark. Yes.
Yeah, streak bar. So that's what comes to mind when I hear skid marks. That's what it
skid
is.
Marks,
Thank you so much.
Around here we call those Paul Reicherts. Just so you know, we call those Paul Reicherts. We call those Dan's dads. I mean, listen, I'm still like, okay, this game is years off.
Right.
That's what I've heard. They haven't said that explicitly, but they've been like, hey, it's very early. This is pre-alpha and all that stuff. But yeah, I've heard it's years off. There's going to be a lot of time for anything mentioned to change, let alone things that they said explicitly wouldn't be in the game. Now, that doesn't mean people shouldn't criticize and shouldn't have these fears, because that's how they get EA to change. And we'll talk a little bit about like other stuff that's happening with loot boxes in terms of government regulation on the show today. But mostly the way things change in video games, at least, is by people yelling and criticizing. So if you don't want this stuff to show up in the final version of #Skate4, then yell about it. Yeah, that totally is fair. I think
it does definitely feel right now like a monkey's paw situation. We want Skate back, but here's what Skate is in the 2020s. You know.
And I think that's what, like, when you talk to people who are really in the skate scene and really want this game to come, they knew that monkey paw from the beginning. They knew, like, if we were going to get this, it was always going to be free to play. It was always going to be long-term monetization where, the people who spend a lot of time in that game are going to be able to spend $1,000 over the course of years and stuff like that. So they knew that, and they mostly accepted it, I think. All right, let's move on to Sucker Punch Productions announces it sold 9.73 million copies of Ghost of Tsushima. This weekend marks 2 years since the release of Ghost of Tsushima. We are blown away by all the support since then and are so grateful for all of you. Thank you to everyone who has played and shared this journey with us. That comes from a tweet from Sucker Punch. That is a pretty good number for a brand new IP, sort of no matter what. There's a handful of, like, Splatoon is another like relatively recent new IP that sort of did about that number over time. To kind of like have this come out of nowhere and be like, hey, it's just going to take over. That's really impressive. And that 10 million mark, it's getting right to that 10 million mark where you are now a one-of-a-kind massive blockbuster. Only a handful of games really get there, but they are the biggest games, and they are the kinds of games that Sony and EA and Activision all want. Games that at least sell $10 million. I was talking to Imran about that last week. That's the number they all want. So this is pretty good stuff for Sucker Punch, right?
Yeah, like, especially like what you were saying, like a new IP. I'm trying to. They're the ones who do Infamous, correct?
Yes.
And so like for Ghost of Tsushima, like that being the first game that they had also made since Second Son and the DLC after that and stuff like that, and them going quiet for a while. Like, this is awesome. think it's also like this was a game that wasn't just like a big thing in the US market, right? Like this was
Absolutely not.
also like hitting like Japan really well, and other like Eastern markets like really well. Like they were all really excited and really loving this game. So I think the fact that they were kind of able to reach across multiple different markets, I think they know that they have something special with this. And yeah, it makes even more sense now of them being like, yeah, we're not doing Sly anytime soon. We're not doing Infamous anytime soon. Probably
Yes.
never. No one else is working on those IPs. Keep those IPs dead. Hashtag Ghost of Tsushima for life. We're just gonna keep making them until people are gonna be interested. So
Yeah, it's. I think you nailed it too with the global appeal. It is the thing that Sony has explicitly said a couple times. I think Jim Ryan's kind of talked about it, and they mentioned it when they were closing down the Japan studios and stuff like that. We want games that have a global appeal. Ghost of Tsushima absolutely checked every box when it came to that, and you're right. The Japanese market went gaga for this game. And that's enough. It's like, oh, it can push a game that was going to be a success in like one territory. If it's a pretty good success everywhere, it can get that like 2.5 million here, 2.5 million there, 2 million there, and get to 10 million copies sold. And yeah, it's been 2 years. It's not a Nintendo game, so it's gone on sale. But that 10 million mark doesn't really matter. No matter what you get to, no matter how like what the price is, getting to 10 million or right around there.
yeah,
is impressive
it's
no
a
matter
TV
what.
show getting to 100 episodes. Like you're syndicated at that point, baby. Like you have no worries after that point.
And yes, this guarantees that's what they're working on next. There is no world in which there is not an active team working on Ghost of Tsushima 2 right now. Like that is happening 100%.
Are they still supporting the online stuff? Do you know?
I think so. We were actually looking into I was like, hey, I want to like look into maybe doing that. I never played it, and the last I heard is like, yeah, it seems like they are still like updating it, making sure that it's up and running and all that stuff. I don't think they're adding new content too much, but it also was like never supposed to be a it never seemed like it was supposed to be like this ongoing live service game, right? It was always supposed to be, oh, we are going to add this feature that is opens up the possibility of Ghost of Tsushima in new and interesting ways. But like most people buying this game are going to go to the single player, and if they want to keep playing, well, now here's this multiplayer thing to the side. So I think they kind of supported it as much as they were ever going to in terms of content. But yeah, definitely still up and running and all that stuff, and still working just fine. So yeah. Let's see. Sonic Team is promising to address complaints with the Sonic Origins collection. In response to a fan asking about a patch, Sonic social media manager Katie Kurz said, hey, thanks for the patience. The team's been listening and is working on fixing a variety of issues right now. We'll make sure to get some more official messaging out once we have more info for everyone. So, have you played Sonic Origins? I've not, but the people I know who've played it don't actually have that many complaints about it. I've seen complaints from one of the studios working on it. It said like, hey, this is below our standards. And there was a couple like big stories of like a fan was working on a mod for the game, and he's like, "This is trash. I'm not."
I think I remember like Imran tweeting out about that of like, it's bad when like a fan is like, like screw this, like I'm done like trying to fix this game and modding it and stuff like that. I'm coming on here as a person who only thinks that the only good Sonic game is Sonic Mania. I'm gonna be honest, so like I'm not a huge Sonic person, and so I've only heard about the Origins debacle through the internets and stuff like that. I have heard from Tim and Bless over at Kind of Funny that I don't think they've personally dealt with a lot. I think Blessing might have run into a thing or two, but they are such on the level of like loving Sonic that it wasn't enough for them to be like super dissuaded by it. Like I think they're both trying to get the platinum for it on PlayStation because it seems like super obtainable and stuff like that. So yeah, it might be one of those weird ones where it's a different situation for different people, and it might just happen to be a lot of people are getting the same kind of like issues, but the lucky few who we actually like hear and talk from are not getting those same issues. Like it reminds me of like we all loved Spider-Man. What was that? 2018. No problems with that on a technical level. But then a personal buddy of mine, every single cutscene, none of the character models like acted properly. They would all like kind of just like float around and stuff like that while the voice acting in the cutscene was going on. And I'm pretty sure he was the only one who dealt with that problem. So there is weird stuff like that like we don't see from like our ends, like on the industry side, but then like fans are getting like you know, some weird bugs and stuff like that we just don't see.
This one seems like it's a similar situation, I think, based on like my understanding is that and someone in the chat was mentioning this, and I think it's a good point. As a casual fan, you probably won't even notice most of the issues. That's from Arjun N, and I think that's right. I think you have to be a Sonic like super fan and in that scene, and someone who might make a mod, and like the community dev team that like has a history of working on this stuff that Sega hired to do this. Like that's that studio that was like, this is below our standards. I think you have to be like really tapped in to notice most of the issues, because they are like, oh, the game used to work like this and now it's slightly tweaked and now it works like that. And so, yeah, okay, that can frustrate people who are those super fans. But I think for the most part, this game seems like it might be one of the better Sonic collections overall. And in that regard, while it seems like it's getting a lot of negative press, I think Sega, if they just give it a little bit more love, can easily get it to like where it needs to be in terms of being like, oh, this is the Sonic game that the Sonic collection that fans and casual fans will come back to for years to come. I think it has like the potential of getting to that tier of providing stuff for Sonic fans.
It'll earn all of the different versions that you can buy that have all of the different things that you can collect. Remember that, Jeff Grubb? That was insane to me. Yes. I think the one thing I remember one Tim Geddes saying was that I think it's Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Is that the one where there's supposedly some Michael Jackson produced music that they replaced?
Yes,
apparently
right.
that music is also just like very bad. And so if they also work on that, that would make Tim very happy.
Yeah. Do a better version of those new songs, whatever. What does it matter though when Sonic 1 has the best music anyhow? Sonic 1's like blows all the rest of the music away as far as I'm concerned.
I can't argue that, even with being very anti Sonic and being pro Sonic. You know, like the music in Sonic is very iconic and very good.
Nintendo reassures fans more N64 games will be added to Switch Online. This is by Liam Doolin from Nintendo Life. Nintendo last week surprised Switch Online expansion pack subscribers with the announcement of Pokemon Puzzle League, but we're now at a point where we don't know what's coming next. Even Japan's lineup has now been completed with the release of the first 2 custom Robo games. This has got some fans wondering how much longer Nintendo will continue to support the Nintendo 64 expansion pack library. Fortunately, there's no need to panic. The company today issued a message via social media reassuring fans it will continue to deliver N64 games. And the message is, Nintendo 64 games will be added to Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack. Stay tuned. I wonder what inside Nintendo like convinced them they needed to send this tweet, Barrett. Why did they need to tell us that more were coming? I just assumed that more were coming. What is happening here?
This is them being like, more are coming.
Yeah, later, right?
Very much later. This is the
gonna
last
be a long
big
break.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that tells me of like we're not going to hear anything major for a while, and the next things that we will hear are going to be like the weird smaller games that like, you know, for the NES Online and SNES Online, where it's like, why are you still adding these games when there's all of these other like prime Nintendo games on these consoles that you could be adding, but you're adding like Golf 3 on the NES for whatever reason 2 years later. So that's what that tells me. Like where like the next big update is going to be like Tonic Trouble from the N64 made by Ubisoft, and not Rayman or something like that,
or
not
Wave Race 64 or 1080.
or Wave Race 64 or DK64, which I know they own the license to. They have like people are like, well, Barrett, it's you know, a rare developed
Banjo Kazooie's on there.
That, but also, you know, they also re-released DK64 for the Wii U, so like they have
the full copyright for that. Yeah,
so it's not like they can't because Rare made it. Like, God, Nintendo is the weirdest when it comes to this stuff. It's I don't know what they're like the behind the scenes of like why they're making the decisions that they make. They don't even like. I'm not even a Diddy Kong Racing guy, but I'm pretty sure it's Diddy Kong Racing even on there.
No, it's one I always thought it was, and then we went back and looked like 5 times. Like I finally heard, no, it's not on there. But you know, they clearly have a deal with Rare. They talked to Banjo Kazooie. I do think GoldenEye does end up there in some form eventually, but
really?
Yeah, I think that's being held up because of the war. So like the Russian content in that game.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
so I
makes
think
sense.
right. So it's like there's a lot of Russian military iconography in GoldenEye, and so they're like, oh, we probably should hold off, and we're dealing with Microsoft, and neither company wants to embarrass the other one. But also August is that game's 30th anniversary, probably 30th anniversary. Jeez, or no,
Wow.
25th anniversary. And so maybe that's possible. It comes out in August. I have no idea at that point. But, there are a lot of games that are obvious and do still need to come. And it's like, yeah, are we at a point where they are going to take a significant break? I hope not. But it does seem like that's one of the reasons they might say this. If
The games are still coming. It's very much of like, please clap energy.
right,
But it's
yes.
like, all right, Nintendo, where are we going from here on out? Because it does feel like when we get to Pokemon Puzzle League, and no hate to Pokemon Puzzle League, because I do hear from friends that it is a very fun game.
Good game.
But like when you're getting to that level of like the Pokemon games on the N64, it's like, all right, so we're going nowhere else from here, right? Like that's the level that we're at of releasing these games. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and again, like Excite Bike 64, a game they should have zero. I mean, okay, Excite Bike and Wave Race, maybe there are some licensing issues with like Kawasaki or something, but they've re-released those before in the past and figured it out. So I would hope they would just figure it out here as well. But
get the true best racing game on the N64, Wave Race, on there at least. Come on.
Wave Race is probably honestly the best in 64 game. I think maybe. All right, let's see here. EA is patenting a way to generate content based on play style. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. EA has filed a patent for a technique that generates in-game content based on how a player approaches a game. The patent application, titled Persona-Driven Dynamic Content Framework, was originally published in April as spotted by OP Attack and was republished this month as spotted by Xputer. According to its description and supporting diagrams, the patent is for a system that determines a player persona based on gameplay information for the user. It then, for example, performs dynamic content generation or additional product recommendations based on the player persona. Barrett, I gotta say, reading this, I kind of assumed all this stuff was already happening a little bit, right?
So when you were reading this, I was just like, so is EA making like a third-party Persona game? Like, what, they keep saying Persona.
Yep.
That's getting me like not really excited because it's EA. Yeah, it's interesting that like when I was reading this before we started the show, it did feel like this does feel like something that like EA was already doing. The idea of it is interesting, I think, for things like roguelites and stuff like that. I very much am into, and roguelites for me personally are things that or like what is it, like randomly generated things that a little bit
procedural generation and stuff like that.
Procedural generation, but now procedural generation based on your playstyle, I think is an interesting concept, but I'm very much of like, I really like curated experiences.
Sure.
So it's one of those, it's like, it is very much like, yes, we're in 2022 and they're coming up with like super just like really weird things to test out with game development and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm surprised it's not already something that they're like that they've been implementing, which is which is weird.
Personas included in the example include explorer, competitor, collector, support, combatant, tank/lead, commander, and completionist. And basically, I think of this with like the AI is just gonna be like, oh, watch how you play.
Tag yourself. I'm a combatant.
Right, exactly. It reminds me of that old Xbox Live, like 360. Like what circle are you in?
Oh my god, that unlocked a memory.
Are you competitive or are you underground? Are you a family gamer? Like whatever the hell they were called. It reminds me of that. But after determining this stuff, it's like, okay, well, if you fit into one of these personas, we know that it's more likely you'll like this game. So obviously, this is talking about advertising games and marketing games to you, which of course it is. Like that is the number one thing they're trying to do is sell people who buy games more games. But then it's also, they do talk about, hey, procedural generation could lead to specific content being aimed at you. And I don't, I get that. I like that to a certain extent. I'm someone who has had good times.
It's an interesting idea for sure.
Yeah. But it's also like, I know what you mean about curated experiences, but I almost want like, it means more to me if I choose my own path. And yeah, maybe I do fit into one of these personas, but all the other stuff in the game kind of needs to be there as well for me to ignore it. Do you know what I mean? Like by ignoring it, I am like defining myself. And I don't want the game to be like, oh, well, we've defined you, so now the game will just be all that stuff you like.
You're helping the game put you in a box, Jeff Grubb. And if there's anything Jeff Grubb does not want to be put in the box. Speaking of which, I just love that Dan Riker, in response to you saying Wave Race is the best game on 64, he responded, "That's the most insane thing you've ever said."
I mean, listen, I will defend that. Wave Race 64, oh, whatever. Fuck you, Dan Riker. It feels so good. It's probably the best feeling game on any platform of that generation. It feels incredible. To this day, it still feels great.
It's one of the ones that like still feels good to play even after all this time, because a lot of early
it's inexcusable. He says it's inexcusable. Inexcusable.
I mean, we know that DK64 is actually the best game on there,
sure,
but again, best feeling, I get it. I get the argument, Jeff.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming to somewhat of my defense. I appreciate that. I expect EA to do more with this, but like this is the kind of thing where I see a patent, and I'm like, I bet they're already doing some stuff like this. That's definitely true with like Blizzard would do a thing where like they patented, hey, we're gonna make it so like you make more connections when you are communicating with people online. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you've done that for years, because I remember playing Overwatch and always getting matched with other people randomly that had the name Grubb, or I would type in chat, like I would make some reference to like RuPaul's Drag Race, and then all of a sudden I'd look and like half the people on my team would have names of drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm like, what is going like? What? I just talked about that, and now that like
that's creepy.
And maybe it's like coincidence, and it's a confirmation bias or whatever. But I don't think so. I really don't think so.
They're listening in. They're listening in too.
It would so benefit like a game like that to make you have good social experiences, because that's what keeps you playing for longer. So why wouldn't they have been investing in that stuff for a very long time? But yeah, we'll see. Microsoft's Activision buyout could be approved by the FTC as soon as next month. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. The FTC asked Microsoft and Activision Blizzard for additional information in March as it continued to review their proposed acquisition deal. And according to paywalled merger news provider Deal Reporter, Microsoft has now provided the FTC with the information it was looking for. As noted by the FTC's own guidance, this means the body now has 30 days to challenge the acquisition. Otherwise, the deal can continue. There are some caveats to this, and this is important and why it might close. It also very well might not. And it's just as a reminder, originally Microsoft said this deal would probably take about 18 months, which takes it into like June of next year. So there are some caveats to this. As the FTC's guidance on the process points out, both companies have to provide the required information before the 30-day countdown can begin. It's not clear yet whether Activision has provided its share of the requested information. If not, the 30-day window will presumably only begin when that happens. This feels like, to me, this deal still feels pretty inevitable, Barrett. Where are you at with it? I know a lot of people are growing more skeptical.
Of if it's actually going to go through. I think there's no way it doesn't go through. In our modern times ruled by capitalism, it's only going to only benefit those ideals of growth and growth. Because the argument is of like it feels like a monopoly, but the other argument is like, oh well, there's still competition, right? And so I think that is going to be the thing that's like, there's no way this doesn't go through at this point. It'll be interesting to see, if this 30-day countdown actually begins anytime soon. I feel like because Activision Blizzard is still technically its own thing, and all of the fires that they're continuing to put out over there, and trying to give them information about like what the FTC wants. I wonder like what specifically they're looking for when it comes to that, and like what they need to provide. And there might be something there where they need to kind of get their ducks in a row before they actually provide that information. So I wonder if that's what Xbox was almost like Microsoft was anticipating with like acquiring them, knowing and understanding where they're at as a company right now, and knowing that maybe the process is going to take a while because of their end of things. And so that like, we could see it next month, but I would be surprised if it happens before the end of this year,
Yeah. So we are almost 6 months from when the deal was announced, right? It was very early this year, something like that. So Yes, the end of this year at the earliest is kind of where I'm at. I'm right there with you. Yeah, it could happen anytime between now and then if everything goes smoothly. But I would expect the FTC actually to bring up at least one or two more objections and stuff like that, saying, "Hey, in this new material, can you clarify some things?" Right. I think they want to appear like they are being more dogged about this stuff, but also I think there's a strong chance that the consolidation that these watchdogs are worried about is somewhat going to, at least in their eyes, solve itself with the industries being so now worried about their future and worried about a recession and worried about cost cutting and all this stuff. And so instead of spending all their money on trying to acquire new businesses, they're probably going to use that money to shore up everything else. And a lot of these acquisitions are probably going to slow down here pretty soon. And I think to them, that's like, well, then that's out of our re-election cycle. So we're going to wash our hands of it and we're not going to worry about it until it's actually a problem again. And so they'll probably like, okay, let this one just go by. No one actually cares about this anymore. Everyone's too busy worried about gas prices.
What's her face really cares about it though?
Elizabeth Warren, yes.
Elizabeth Warren is really keeping her eye on this.
She's got a good grasp on it too. She noted, like, specifically, she didn't say monopoly because this would not have been a monopoly. She said monopsony, which is the idea that there's one buyer in a market instead of one seller in a market. And the idea would be like, okay, all these developers are creating games, and if they want a chance to succeed, there's one buyer, Microsoft, and you have to go through them. That's like, we're really far away from that, but this is clearly, everyone sees like, oh, this is maybe on a path to that happening. It's not really, I think we all know in our hearts that like gaming only sort of adds business models. Nothing really goes away forever. Like, we're still going to be buying physical games in one way or another for forever, while digital games continues to grow alongside it and all that stuff. So, I think that she's right though to be a little bit dogged about this stuff and to say, let's actually look into it. And that's what's happening still. And it's going to continue to happen until the deal actually goes through, which I agree, it seems inevitable. All right. Numerous Pokemon Scarlet/Violet details and images leaked from an anonymous source. This comes from Quince at Go Nintendo. More and more supposed leaks regarding the upcoming Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have been surfacing online over the past week. As usual, none of these are verifiable, but they're being shared by multiple accounts and definitely have some traction in the Pokemon community. The source of the leaks is an anonymous Twitter account who has become known by most as Mr. K. But who changes his handle on a regular basis to avoid getting too much attention, which I have to say, if you're trying to avoid getting attention, leaking Pokemon stuff is not the right way to do that. You're going to get attention. The majority of these leaks come in the form of extremely blurry screenshots, which I'm not going to show here because they are extremely blurry, and also Pokemon Company is kind of notorious. I don't want to deal with them. But you can't see enough in there anyhow. So it's like, if you want to go look for them, go for it. But there's just, most of the interesting detail comes from some of this like bullet pointed list that I'll get to in a second. Including these screenshots are images of new Pokemon, evolutions, gym leaders, and more. There's also some unconfirmed info regarding the new game's structures, features, and options. And that includes gyms will be able to be completed in any order, although their difficulty won't change no matter when you attempt them. There will be around 400 Pokemon in the regional Pokédex. No previous generation starters will be included. A special new item will give Pokemon a crystal aura, boosting a single type for use in battle temporarily. So, I'll tell you the things that stand out to me is being able to complete gyms in any order and having no previous generation starters included. That seems pretty wild.
The no previous generation starters being included is pretty insane because they love putting Charizard and Charmander into every single Pokemon game, which I don't blame them for. He's still the best Pokemon. But I kind of like that, like, they're like, hey, like, let's try to focus on a little more of the newer stuff and not try to rely so much on the classics that everybody loves.
Now,
I know for
Barrett,
the Pokemon community.
Were you old enough to be part of like when the Transformers movie came out and they're like, we're going to kill off all the old ones, so you have to buy the new toys, and that didn't work very well.
Are we talking about the Shia LaBeouf movie?
No, the animated movie from the 80s. Yes. So
I was born, Jeff Grubb, I was born in 1995, okay, just to make
disgusting.
You feel a little old.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I grew up with the Shia LaBeouf movie, but I do remember watching the animated Transformers movies as a kid, but it was like, I don't know, it was blurs at that point. It was blurs.
Right. So the whole idea of the movie is like, oh, you have all these toys from the first generation that everyone loved, and now we're going to do a movie. But if we're doing a movie, we got to get our money's worth. We're a toy company, goddammit. So we are going to kill off all those old characters to introduce a whole new crop of awesome characters. Rodimus Prime or whatever, Rodimus Prime. And it didn't work very well. I think Pokemon's been around long enough that it kind of can work a little bit, but it definitely seems like that's what they're doing again. Like, hey, we have new Pokemon to sell new toys, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And, I don't blame them for that. And I'm also just like personally excited to just get attached to more new Pokemon, hopefully that aren't based off of keychains and ceiling lamps. And so, yeah, the exciting thing definitely is being able to complete gyms in any order. There's speculation about, are they doing the capture, Pokemon capture system that we saw in Legends Arceus, where it's a little more open. You can actually sneak around and like catch the Pokemon. At least I think that's what's implied. I don't know if Nintendo actually confirmed that's what's going on in that game from the trailer. But then also including gyms and stuff like that we didn't really see in Legends Arceus. And being able to complete in any order is awesome because it'll give you agency to really feel like you're going on your Pokemon journey rather than, I'm actually going against what I said earlier of like I like a curated experience. This is still curated to an extent, but it's taking that curation in kind of like any order that you want. Do you want your desserts first, or do you want the actual meal first? And I'm into that. You were yelling at Kind of Funny for the slander it gave Link Between Worlds, and Link Between Worlds, that's like one of the cool things is like when you actually I think get past the first 3 dungeons, you can complete any of the like the rest of the 7 dungeons in any order. And I thought that was like a really smart way to actually feel like you're going on your own adventure rather than Link to the Past, where it really feels like, all right, you went to this place and now you go to this place and now you go to this place. So the fact that they're doing that based on a property that is about kids going on their own adventure and finding their own way, I really dig that. So that makes me even more excited for this game, which I was already pretty excited about.
Now, I think I have noticed, like Kane Heinwin in chat is pointing out, and I think some people are worried about this. I like this, but yes, you complete the gyms in any order, but they do not scale with your skill. So they like that last gym still going to be very hard. You will probably have to have very powerful Pokemon. Right. I kind of like that. I think that's like, oh yeah, I don't want it always to be this milquetoast difficulty. I want to be like, oh, I've stepped into a place I don't belong yet. Can I push my way through? Can I figure out some stuff to do here to pull this off? That works for me.
Yeah, I'm personally like not like super against that too. Like like you could go to Giovanni's gym first, but is it going to be as easy as going to Brock's gym? No, it's going to be much harder. So I'm into that, and again, it gives a little bit of the set dressing of feeling like you're going on your own adventure there. So I'm into it, even though if like I get to the really hard gym area first and it gets really scary, I'm probably going to run away. Like that really big, what was it? What's the really big pony Pokemon in Legends Arceus that you see like right when you turn left?
Yeah,
and it's
Ponyta.
huge.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you run away because it's really scary. So that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do.
That owns. That's one of the best moments in games this year is when I saw that Ponyta, and I was just like, I'm scared and somewhat excited at the same time. What's happening? All right. Let's get to the catch up where we talk about what everyone's talking about. I kind of wanted to give everybody a quick update here. Bungie has officially joined PlayStation. So that was always going to happen. That deal has gone through and now it's completed. Bungie is part of Sony. They tweeted, "We are proud to officially join the incredible team at PlayStation. We are excited for the future of our company, and we are inspired to bring together players from all over the world to form lasting friendships and memories." So yeah, not much new news here, but it is to say this is the beginning of that relationship. And I would expect very quickly for Sony to do what it does, which is take the expertise of one of its teams and make it the global expertise of every developer at Sony, right?
Yeah, especially with them saying, oh, what was it? Not games as a service. What's all the games that they have in development? Live service games, right? That they're doing. And does Bungie count? Bungie working on Destiny, does that count underneath all the live service games that Sony is working on?
They actually specifically have said that it doesn't count. So like they're doing more beyond that. Yes.
And so it's an exciting moment for them to finally get Bungie actually like in the door to be like, hey, this is all the live service stuff that we're doing. Maybe some things are on fire. Can you help us? Because you guys know what you're doing for sure. In if you ask certain Destiny fans and if you ask other Destiny fans, they're like, no, they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And so I think it's definitely just an official exciting moment to, have Bungie be a part of the team and, coordinate with other studios about like what they're working on for the future of PlayStation Live service games, which will be interesting. And if like, just like little pushes here and there from Bungie to other studios to help them out and figure out some ideas, like that makes me at least a little more excited for what the future of live service for PlayStation looks like. Again, I'm more of like a single player curated experience type of guy. But I did get into Destiny 2 real hard. They did definitely like have something special, not special enough to like really get me in. What is it, 4 years later or whatever it is?
Sure.
How long ever that game has been out, but. They do know what they're doing, and so it makes me a little more hopeful. Whereas like if this Bungie thing wasn't happening, and if it didn't happen, and PlayStation was like, "Hey, we're working on a bunch of live service games," it'd be like, "Oh no!"
Like they were going to have to go through. They were going to have to go through that learning process, like you were saying. They were going to have to like do it the hard way, and now there's sort of no excuse. You kind of can't like you paid this money specifically to bypass doing things the hard way. So when your live service game launches, your big live service games begin like coming out. I don't really want to see that growing pains period. I still expect that to happen a little bit though, because it's so difficult that even when with Bungie, it's probably still going to happen. But you would hope that they would be able to bypass that.
Weezman also points out in the chat, live service games equals games as a service. I know, but I wanted to specifically use their wording for it because, just so
games as a service is a term that has sort of been deprecated by most of the industry. They don't sort of say that anymore. Although, because that was like the early term before, like everyone's like, what's the more slick marketing term? Live service. And now they don't even say that anymore either. They say living games. Okay. Real quick, John Riccitiello apologized. He wrote a big apology for what he said. We talked about this. I kind of felt like, of course he was going to do this. He was getting a lot of hot water for, basically to recap for anyone who might not have listened to the show last week. He said that devs were fucking idiots if they're not considering monetization from the beginning of designing their game. He said it in a way that was like, I'm arguing with my friends, and I think you're a fucking idiot, my friend. Now, he's arguing with a group of people that don't, I think, consider him to be their friend. So it was like this weird mishmash. So
it's one of those things where like the boss thinks of themselves as one of the workers, but they can't read the room and realize that they're the boss. So like that feeling is not reciprocated. It's the classic Michael Scott scenario.
Yes, I think it's exactly
that a lot of a lot of white men who fail upwards in life, who can't read the room correctly, in big corporations. So that's what we call that in professional industry terms.
Yes, exactly. He's got like a bullet pointed list here. He says, first, I have a great respect for game developers, and then goes on to say, second, game developers work incredibly hard, and I should have really recognized that. Third, sometimes all a game developers want to do is have a handful of friends enjoy a game. I think that was probably a common thing, but I also know for a fact that's not who he was talking to. He was not talking to the people who were responding like, I don't care. I just want like a handful of people play my game. I don't care if it ever makes any money. That's not who he was really talking to, but fair enough. And then fourth, what I was trying to say and clearly failed at saying is that there are better ways for game developers to get an early read on what players think of their game, to learn from their feedback, and if the developers want to adjust the game based on this feedback. It's a choice to listen and act, or just to listen. Again, both are very valid choices. If I had been smarter in choosing my words, I would have just said this. We are working to provide developers with tools so they can better understand what their players think, and it is up to them to act or not based on this feedback. Anyway, that's it. Lots of words and a sentence that I wish I'd never said. So clearly he was like kind of getting like, hey, John, this sucks. You have to go do something about this. And he did. So
the gamers are mad. You gotta apologize even if you don't mean it.
And in this specific case, the game developers are mad, and they're our customer. They're the ones who we really make money from. Although by combining with Iron Forge or Iron Source, whoever, now they're an advertising company. So their real product is going to be us in the long run. I don't know. I've lost track. Okay, new Xbox Game Pass titles, As Dusk Falls, Ashes of the Singularity, Escalation, and Watch Dogs 2 are coming tomorrow on July 19th. On July 21st, you can get MotoGP 22 and Torment's Tides of Numenera, and then Inside on July 29th. That's just a quick update. And then finally, the UK government says the games industry must act on loot boxes or face legislation. I'm putting this in the catch-up because it feels like this is like a conversation we had years ago that a government is just sort of finally catching up with. But I'll read it real quick. On Sunday, the government called for the purchase of loot boxes to be made unavailable to children and young people unless they are approved by a parent or guardian. While Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries highlighted that she expects many companies to do more to ensure children can't make purchases without parental consent, no formal actions has been taken to tighten restrictions around digital purchases. Let's see. Dr. Joe Twist, CEO of trade body Yuki, said, as a responsible industry, we have committed to exploring additional ways to support players and parents to build on our existing work, developing and raising awareness of parental controls. We look forward to engaging closely with government and other organizations in the working group and on the video games research framework. So this is like got so many facets to it, but it's like for the one part, this is the industry still saying, hey, we can regulate ourselves. Tell us what you want us to do and we'll do it. And then there's the other thing of this is a conversation that really feels like it's past its prime in terms of there was a time when even just the threat of regulation could have done a lot of good. And it did. I think it did a little bit. They were like at the time, gamers were able to get loud enough to attract the attention of a handful of people in government to say, yeah, we'll look into this. And I think that was enough to scare many of these companies away from the idea and had them look into other ways of doing things. Now, have loot boxes gone away entirely? Of course not. FIFA still has them. A lot of games aimed on mobile, which may or may not be aimed at kids, still have them. Absolutely. But it does feel like a vestige of the way of doing things and not like the primary way of doing business for a lot of these companies. Right. And, that said, if people still feel like it needs to be regulated, yeah, go for it. I think that's fine. I just think there is something indicative about this was a big problem 5 years ago. And now the government's here to show up and rescue and save the day.
It was a big problem when Battlefront 2 came out.
Yes.
And the CEO of Disney was like, what the hell are loot boxes?
Yeah.
And then the industry kind of had to like figure stuff out. The Netherlands, I think it was the Netherlands that might have banned them. I forget. Because
Belgium and there's a few others, yes.
Yeah, because when you brought up the UK, I was like, I thought they did that already. But I guess no, some other EU countries there.
Yes, Belgium did
and
it,
so... yeah, I definitely feel like it's definitely, like you said, not entirely gone away, but it's definitely cooled down a little bit since like especially the Battlefront 2 fiasco. I think that was like when the industry as a whole kind of was like,
right.
Oh, throw that away, throw that idea away because everybody's crapping on EA right now. We don't want to be them. We don't want to be them.
I mean, it's like, and that's the way this is really going to keep working. As much as it's an imperfect system, we found that like lobbying our government is not nearly as effective as getting really loud as gamers. And saying, hey, this is if you make this choice under a capitalist system.
I wish that was fully true.
Yeah, well, yes, in every system, right? Yeah, in every way, yes. But in gaming, these corporations are so scared of risk and so scared of losing their reputation because they know it sticks for decades. EA is still thought of as the EA that was like the worst corporation in America or whatever, 2-3 years running. That stuff sticks for such a long time. It's like really hard to undo. So they'll do everything they can to like make sure they get off that track if they're on the track towards becoming this terrible entity that everyone views them as. So and now so they figure out other ways of doing it. We get battle passes, we get all kinds of other monetization schemes, and that doesn't mean that this regulation isn't needed. Maybe it is. I think the research does show that loot boxes aimed at kids are very, very effective at getting them into this subconscious loop of dopamine receptors, and their brains aren't developed enough to sort of deal with what is happening to them. And so, yeah, if you want to do something about that, yeah, go for it. And I hope it doesn't have any backward effect, but also if it does, the industry sort of made its bed and has to lay in it, right?
Right.
All right. Let's see. We asked a question on Friday. Let's go ahead and bring that up. Are you actively playing any free-to-play games? 49.1% said yes. 50.9% said no. I bet many of the people who said no actually are, and they just don't consider it a free-to-play game. Because I saw a lot of people like, well, if you count Destiny, maybe. I'm like, well, yes.
That's a free-to-play game.
Yeah. And it's like, so where are you at with this, Barrett? Are you playing any free-to-play games?
I voted no. Because I remember voting on this on Friday, and that's because the key word there for me is actively.
Actively,
right?
Yeah.
I play Fortnite once every few months with the rest of the KF crew, like on stream, on content, not even for like my own like personal stuff. And then outside of that, like I picked up Knockout City, but that was also like right before it went free to play, and then that's been it. For free to play games, like I'm not even really playing like Rocket League anymore or anything like that. So that's kind of where I'm at personally with free to play games. Not that I'm anti free to play, but that's just
Sure.
I'm looking for more. Again, the word of the day, kids, is curated. I'm looking for more curated experiences, doing cyber crimes on my Steam Deck, maybe hanging out with a very angry man who's about to have a sequel later this year. So
yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, every game's free if you go to like archive.org and you're doing crimes. So yeah, there you go. All right, let's see. I need to come up with a new one for this week. I was thinking maybe asking about loot boxes. Let's do it. Let's just say, do you think the government still needs to do something about loot boxes?
I like that.
Still needs to do something about loot boxes. Is everyone hearing this typing sound? Opera GX, the browser for gamers, it has, I think it does a digital typing sound, which is the weirdest choice in the world, I think. But I'm whatever. I'm for it. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm not going to look how to turn it off. Yes, they do. Yes, you guys can hear it. Oh my God. I use this because they're like, okay, I have a separate browser just for news assets. So if you guys wanted to if I wanted to play a trailer for you, I could just have it in this one browser. And I just can't believe that they do this. So whatever. Okay, here you go. All right. Game Mess Mornings. All right, there we go. Let's tweet that and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. Barrett, where can people find you? Where can people hang out with you on the internet?
People can hang out with me over on twitter.com @sadboybarrett, where they can see me just tweeting about, just a bunch of random stuff. You can find me over on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, where, again, I'm a technical director for our game shows like PS I Love You XOXO, Kinda Funny Gamescast, Kinda Funny XCast, so on and so forth. You can also catch me over on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames every once in a while, playing some Fortnite, maybe every once in a while playing a playthrough of a game. You can go over to youtube.com/kindafunnyplays, where you can find our entire playthrough series of the Metal Gear Solid games 1 through 4, which I had never played before. Yeah, and so if you want to see my very first playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4, you can check that out over there, which was a fun time. Yeah, that was like me, Snowbike Mike, Tamora was on that, Blessing was on that. I think maybe Imran might have popped up a time or two. But yeah, that was a really fun one. Go over there and check that out, because that was a fun time. Will I ever play 5? Maybe I have it on my Steam Deck. Who knows?
Yeah, it's good on the Steam Deck. It's actually fantastic on the Steam Deck. So that's the way. Yeah, but stream it too. We want to watch you play it.
It's an open world game though this time around, Jeff. It's going to take so long to stream through it.
Yeah, but it's like then you get to see all the interesting decisions you make. It's so good. I'm actually going to go to a meeting right now to find out what's going on Giant Bomb this week. But you guys know we'll have the Bombcast tomorrow. We'll have voicemail dump trunk on Thursday. We'll have UPF of some sort on Friday. We'll decide all the rest. Look out for some quick looks. We'll probably stream something. I don't know. Check out giantbomb.com.